Y'all, it's 6 o'clock. It's August 13th of 2024, and we are going to call to order this meeting of the Gallatin City Council Committee. We'll begin the meeting with, before we move along, I do want to make you aware of one issue, or not issue, but item. It has been requested that without objection that we defer item 3, which is Ordinance 02408-42, which is the ordinance approving a preliminary master development plan for Greensboro Village mixed residential development within the Greensboro Village PUD on 2 acres totaling 43.5 acres located north and south of Greenlee Boulevard and south of Greensboro Drive. So if no one has an objection, then we will defer that this evening. Seeing none, we will consider it deferred. And I tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, because some of you may be here for that specific item, and it will not be discussed this evening. So for your information, I don't know when it might be or if it will be, but it will not be discussed this evening. Item number, I'm sorry, Ms. Kittrell, the roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Love.
Here.
Councilman Allison.
Here.
Councilman Carter.
Present.
Councilman Fan.
Here.
Councilman Fennell.
Here.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
And Councilman Juvance.
Present.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. You have no minutes provided for this evening, so we will move on to public recognition. And public recognition at a council committee meeting all happens at the beginning of the meeting. And so whether you want to speak to an item that's on the agenda or one that's not on the agenda, now would be your time to speak. We ask that you come forward, you give us your name and address for the record. That's required of us. And you'll have 5 minutes to speak, and I'll be running the clock. So please be kind to one another, be kind to the council. And I am going to ask, because I can already hear noise that's becoming very distracting in the audience, please keep the private discussions to a bare minimum or step outside in the lobby if you need to talk to your neighbor, and that would help us all. Also, I think when we were discussing earlier, I heard someone yell something out from the audience, but we can't hear up here what you may be saying there. That's why we have microphones, so that you can hear us if I don't forget to turn it back on when I'm supposed to speak. But let's just all have a good discourse this evening, and right now I will welcome you to speak on public recognition. The floor is now open.
Council, my name is Chad Hall. I live at 104 Bent's Court North here in Gallatin. I am the president of the Experimental Aircraft Association chapter here at the Gallatin Airport. We're the guys that host the monthly airport breakfast. Some of you guys may be familiar with that. Last Saturday, we actually had our breakfast. We had 458 people. It was a record number for us from the community that come out to hang out, have breakfast, look at airplanes, meet pilots. We had Sky 5 with us as our special guest. We were actually live on the morning shows. Great publicity for Gallatin and the events that we're working on at the airport. And the reason is because we want to inspire young people to pursue aviation. And studies have shown by 2030 we're going to have a shortage of probably around 30,000 pilots, not to mention all the other professions that go into support general and commercial aviation. So as our airport grows in size and in importance, we want to fill the opportunities from people within our own community. That's why we really do what we do. So with programs like Liberty Creek's aviation program, which is spectacular, the efforts that we do, others like Scouting, they have aviation programs as well. We're on our way to make Gallatin known as a city that produces aviation professionals. Even my own son, who's just become an aircraft mechanic, works here in Gallatin Airport. So that's what we're here to do. So last year, we actually started a nonprofit called Bold Aviation. It's specifically designed to host aviation-related events here in Gallatin with that same goal of really inspiring our youth in aviation. Our first and only event was last year. It was the Music City Stoll, part of the National Stoll organization that does competitive events throughout the year and around the country. So Stoll, S-T-O-L, stands for Short Takeoff and Landing. It's a competition composed of pilots from all over the country, local pilots as well. They travel into different cities and they compete to see who can take off and land in the shortest distance possible. And it's conducted in a very organized, very safe way. It follows all FAA rules and regulations, and it's a very, very exciting event. to experience in person. So last year I was asked by the organization to fill in a canceled position, and I said I have a perfect place for you guys to come, our town here in Gallatin. We put together the event in a short amount of time. It was on Labor Day, competing with tons of other events here in the city. It was probably the hottest day of the year. We still brought in around 1,100 people. We had lots of local vendors, food trucks. Everybody sold out. All the food trucks sold out. It was a great event. So we're gearing up now for our second annual event, which is coming up October 11th and 12th of this year. And last year went really, really well. We want to just repeat exactly what we did because it was such a success. We're going to just enhance it a little bit more. We're going to actually bring some music into the Music City Stoll. We're going to have a stage with some entertainers, songwriters from Nashville. So that's kind of what we're going to do in addition. We're also expecting a much bigger crowd, probably around 2,500 people. We've got dozens of vendors, food trucks, almost all of them. We try to find folks that are local first, get them in there. But we've got tons, I think dozens of vendors and about 7 different food trucks that are going to be doing that. But anyway, what made the event last year such a great success? Logistically, a big part of that was the help from Gallatin, from you all, from the city and this council with the support from Public Works, police, and fire. Our airport stayed pristine during this event. When you have so many people, everybody's eating food and so forth, there wasn't any trash over, and when the event was over and everybody cleared out, the airport looked like nothing ever happened. The folks did such an amazing job, and the police firefighters were there keeping our event safe. It's really important. We actually gave them a front row seat, which they seem to really like. We plan to do that again. So what I'm here tonight really is just to ask the council for that same support for our event in October, for the public works, the trash pickup, and the fire and police help. So I want to reiterate what a great opportunity is to promote Gallatin as well. National Stoll itself has 245,000 social media followers. Last year, they had 64.7 million impressions. All the events are archived on YouTube. Our event is on there. I encourage you all to take a look at that and see what a great job they did representing Gallatin and the attention that it got. So I want to invite the city to be engaged with us, be a part of our event. Any way that brings attention to our city, supports our local businesses, we want to do that. So real quick, I'll sum up. And Rosemary Bates in the economic development, there she is, been a great help for us. We really appreciate, I can't thank them enough for all the help. Sumner Tourism, a lot of local businesses, they've come to help as well. So that's all I had, just asking for your support. And I don't know if you're interested, I have some brochures and just some documents to
You
share.
can hand those out and we'll pass them around, and I will ask the council if they wish to consider this once we conclude public comment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Todd Alexander, 217 Strange Circle. Kudos to the previous speaker. Great event. I was there. Aviation took me from a life that was much bigger than cows and tractors into the world of aviation. So keep up the good work. I want to speak just for a moment. It's a little difficult. I kind of wish sometimes the public could speak after we heard the presentations on some of these ideas, but in looking over the 300 and some pages tonight, I want to just ask the council to be mindful of the minimum lot area exceptions, the side yard exceptions, the lot width exceptions, because very quickly they can become normal standard practices, and I know we're in the middle of a ZOCO look at everything, but I just want to ask you to look at those as some of these lot sizes were almost cut in half. And just asking you to look at those and carefully consider those. I think the citizens of Gallatin kind of already have a feeling that we're building too much, too close together. And so just ask you and encourage you to look at those tonight in your decisions going forward. Thank you.
Hello, Council. Renee Saunders, 2092 Rodman Boulevard. I was getting ready to give you my childhood home address for some reason. First of all, I think lots of us are disappointed that 3 is going to be taken off the agenda, but I wanted to talk a little bit about number 2 and number 5, because number 2 sounds very interesting. But when I got into the part of it, it looked like there was some plan for buildings that might be larger than 3 stories. And so maybe I'm being confused with number 3 as well, but I saw something in there that said 3, 4, or 5-story buildings along Greenlee and I guess across National Pike, I don't know. It sounded to me like the number 2 development sounds like what happened at Indian Lake, so that we can stay and shop at home. And so I can't be not excited about that. Although I don't do a lot of shopping, it seems really reasonable that we should be able to shop in our own backyard, contrary to probably a lot of other people and how they feel about it. Though my biggest concern with all of what's happening is the traffic, of course. Our streets are so congested now. I can imagine what's going to happen when we start building something more retail space and that kind of thing, that more people want to come and visit. So hopefully you all have already thought about how to keep down the traffic congestion. On number 5, I think it's wonderful that Gap is building, or they have plans to build for their employees. That's fantastic, because it sounds like that's probably affordable housing, which is really what we need in this town. My worry is, I love Harris Lane. It's a nice cut through. I live off Browns Lane, so it's easier to get to Harris Lane than it is to get to Greenlee Boulevard when I'm trying to get to the 386. Even if the train comes, it's still just easier to do that. And if that exit that's on the planned map comes out on Harris Lane, I feel like that's going to be a huge mistake for people coming out on Harris Lane and then going into the Gap, or coming around and either going into the Gap or going into the apartment building. I think it's going to create big traffic problems for us. Plus, Harris Lane is a small 2-lane road. Like, it doesn't even really seem like it's standard size most days, but hopefully someone has thought about how to improve the infrastructure there before allowing something, that egress from that apartment building, to happen that way. Other than that, look forward to seeing when 3 is going to be back on the agenda, and maybe Councilman Hayes will be able to give us a little more information about that if it's in his wheelhouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saunders. Anyone else wishing to speak under public comment this evening?
Hi, I'm Heidi Horio, 221 Wood Lake. And my public comment had to do with the thing that got taken off the agenda and something similar to it. Anyway, we live on Wood Lake, which is near Greenlee, which is near the Greensboro stuff that's happening on number 3, but also across from the Knoll is a wooded area that they're going to build, and lots of, I think, multi-dwellings, maybe apartments or townhouses. But from what I understand, they want to change the density, change the zoning, and so we're just asking that in these areas to keep to the original zoning at least, just because the traffic already, if you're on the Pike coming, you guys know, even just coming here, but it's even bad over by Plantation and Greenlee and Greensboro, but then adding all these apartments and dwellings and things are just going to really impact the traffic. And even just the residents, as we're driving, we just got done with all this construction. We're like, yay, we can like go through the road normal and everything, and now it's going to start again. So that's, but then also that wooded area, it's really densely wooded actually, and we have a ton of deer in our yard. And I'm just wondering, where all the deer go? Are we going to get even more? Like, it's an unusual amount of deer in our area, and so I'm concerned that taking away that is for the wildlife. There's beaver in that area too. So we're concerned, of course, about that, but then just the high density, we just ask you to reconsider changing the zone in these areas. Thank you.
Stephanie Hines, 350 Madeira Place, Gallatin, directly in the Knoll, where all this is going to take place. I belong to the Nature Conservancy of Tennessee, and they thrive on how Tennessee is taking care of its wildlife. It's, infrastructure as far as like water things and things like that to conserve all of that. You take away all that green space, you're just like getting rid of everything that the Nature Conservancy is fighting for and what they stand for. People complain about deer, so I'm sure someone will come along and say, well, we'll just get rid of them. Who cares? It's not in my backyard, doesn't affect me. Be mindful of the lot size. You're going to hear that over and over and over again. If it's not in your backyard, maybe you're not concerned about. We are, because it's in our backyard. We purposely moved in that area because it's quiet. There's not a lot of shopping. I remember with the planning meeting, there was a gentleman said that people will take their golf carts and drive or walk over to get a cup of coffee or dinner. No, they won't. They don't do it now in our neighborhood. People still drive to the grocery store. They still drive to go and get the cup of coffee. So saying that it's going to be, all walkable area, no, that's not real. As far as keeping up with infrastructure, it took over 19 months to get the streetlights fixed on Greensboro. I called each month, giving them the list of the 23 lights that were out. It finally got done, I think it was last November. Person is probably new, thank God they fixed it. Target by Walgreens, do we really need another Target that close? There's been at least 3 accidents within the last 2 months in that area, right on Nashville Pike, directly across from the Walgreens. How many more does it take before people are gonna wake up and say, we can't have this much infrastructure? If you want to have all these apartments and, skyscraping type buildings, go further out where there's more open space. You have that whole, where the 1440 gym is, all that's open land. That's not affecting as many people as it is in our near area. I think you had a lot of people that wanted number 3 to be spoken about today. And maybe that's why you said no, because you didn't want to hear it. We will come to every meeting until something is done, until our voice is actually heard.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening, Dennis McLucas, 212 Woodlake Drive in Gallatin. I just came up to emphasize what my other neighbors have mentioned about the population, the wildlife, and the infrastructure. It is just simply too much growth. You have to control it. I won't go on any further. I just wanted to back up my neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak under public comment this evening?
Good evening. I'm Lori Golden, live at 165 Woodlake. Want to support my fellow neighbors as well. What's wrong with just leaving it green space? There's a lot of wildlife in that area. That's just going to get pushed back towards Nashville Pike or more to into the subdivision. The infrastructure cannot support such a development. The buildings will be so high, it just will look completely out of place. So my concern is about the wildlife, the infrastructure, and let's just keep some things green in Gallatin. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, public recognition is now closed, and we will move now to mayor's comments. A couple of things I do want to address. First, the request to defer item number 3 was not of a member of this council, so had nothing to do with no one wanting to hear it, because guess what? We always have to hear what anybody's asking for and the comment that goes along with that. I always prefer not to delay items, but I think in this instance, they felt like they wanted to work on it a little bit more. And then secondly, if this council is willing, may we go ahead and discuss the Stoll event and the ask that they have made for support? No objection anywhere? Okay. All right, so I've talked to Richard DePriest, our Public Works Superintendent. Last year, they provided trash assistance and trash cans, and like Mr. Hall said, the airport was spotless. This year, they anticipate a larger crowd. They are asking for support from police and fire, obviously, as they are able to. So I would ask for a motion, and
I make a motion.
motion by Councilman Juvance to lend the support requested police, fire, and trash.
Yes, ma'am.
Second by Councilman Hayes. Any questions, any discussion, anyone wanting to know anything more about anything?
I have to disclose I'm on the Airport Authority Board, but that was a great event last year, bring a lot of people.
Absolutely. In my mind, this is a nonprofit event, and it's a great tourism opportunity because this is one of those rare destination events that communities really, really want. And so I think there's good opportunity there. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hall. I have mayor's comments to go on. A couple of things that I want to make sure that I pass on to you all. Well, first of all, the sound is not working on Comcast. We've had that for several weeks now. It is not an issue on our side. It's an issue beyond our control with kind of our partner in providing the feed. So I think as we move forward, we need to count on being able to watch the council meeting either on our website, right? Yeah, and you can, I'm sorry? YouTube. And YouTube during or after. And you can always find a link to the meeting at the top of GallatinTN.gov. So if you feel like it's hard to navigate the website, it's right there at the top. And it'll say Gallatin City Council meeting or Gallatin Council Committee meeting. So I want you to be aware of that. The census, I'm glad to report to you all, is underway. Lots of compliments for our IT department and the strides that they made and the turnaround that they provided to get the data for the folks who are working in on our census, thanks to HR for helping get some people hired. But this is a great opportunity for me to put out there publicly that the Gallatin census is hiring part-time positions. So they're decent opportunities. They're not a long-term position. They don't come with benefits, but the pay is pretty good. And it would be working as a field rep, or they may still have an admin position. They don't, they filled that. And we have been moving the census office into the Chamber's old office, and that's going to be the location for the next several months, which is going to work out well. I could not compliment Gracie Perez, our leader of all things census, enough, and also Rosemary Bates, because she was the coordinator last go-round, and she certainly didn't have the capacity to do that this time around, but we have certainly been appreciative of your work with Ms. Perez to get this rolling. And you may have seen it in the newsletter that went out recently. You have seen it on social media. We will be mailing a paper form out. We are continuing to work with the data that we are collecting and identify any issues that we may have. I know one thing that I bumped into was there were only 7 spaces on the census form, and there were families that were larger than that. And so they've added some space, but you'll also have the opportunity with the paper form that is mailed to you, but you also have the opportunity, if you're online, if there aren't enough spaces for everybody living at your household, you can submit more than one census. And I'll remind you that this is a special census. It's volunteer. Our 2020 federal census took place during COVID, and we feel like we were very undercounted, and obviously we have grown since then. There is money that comes into the city based on population from multiple sources, and we believe that that equates to about $179 per person per year. So when you are looking at a discrepancy of thousands of people, that is revenue that we are not leaning on taxpayers to provide through their property taxes. I will also offer the reminder that last week, the city of Gallatin did set the tax rate. And I really haven't heard a lot about it, but I know that there was a lot of angst and concern when the property valuations were mailed out. People were like, oh my goodness, I wish I could sell my property for this, and so on and so forth. And they were worried about what the tax implications would be related to that new valuation. We did set the tax rate last week. The tax rate is essentially 53 cents, which is down from 80 cents. You can calculate based on that. If you were above the average valuation, your taxes may go up a little bit. If you are below the average revaluation, your taxes will go down a little bit. But generally, we adopted what we call a revenue neutral rate, because in addition to us trying to do the census and our sales tax base growing, we are also going to be asked, as you recall, if you've been following our meetings, for support for something that will be on the referendum in November that will increase our sales tax by ½ cent, like Hendersonville and a lot of other cities have done recently, that will bring revenue in that's spread across far more people than just the property owners. I can't recall the exact equation, Ms. Nichols, that you worked, but I was thinking the initial glance before we set the revenue rate was the equivalent of a half penny on the sales tax would equate to a 30-cent increase on the property tax rate. That's okay. She doesn't recall exactly either. But my point is that what we could be, if we leaned on the property owners for additional revenue for the future, your impact as property owners would be significant versus your impact as someone who's paying sales tax would be spread broadly across all the people that also shop in Gallatin but may not live here. So I just tell you that for information because I think that's important to know. Also, I want to mention the Friends Take Flight event that happened this weekend. Great volunteer effort of Friends of the Miracle Park. They worked so hard to make it be a wonderful, enjoyable event for people of all abilities. The weather did not cooperate as they had wished. It was beautiful, and when the balloon was able to be up, it made great photo ops, but not as many people were able to go up in the balloon as they had originally hoped. But I still think it was a fabulous event. People enjoyed the vendors. They enjoyed the park while they were there, and lots of food trucks there entertaining people too. So thank you to the folks that organized that. A couple of events I do want you to be aware of this week is Third Thursday on Main. Ryan Daniel is the guest. That happens from 6:30 to 9 in historic downtown Gallatin. Not in Gallatin, but I think it may be an interest to people, especially those in the special needs community. There's a 2024 Regional Special Needs Expo happening at Hendersonville First Baptist Church in Hendersonville on the 17th of August from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. Also remind you that the market day at the Gallatin Farmers Market is continuing each Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. This weekend, Gallatin Parks and Recreation will be hosting the National Softball Association Tournament at Triple Creek, so expect another big crowd. I did tell the people at the new Circle K that I would try to advise them when we've got a big tournament coming in, because I think they sold out with that first tournament like they'd never seen a convenience store do before. Also happening through the rest of the season is the car cruise in at the upper parking lot at the Gallatin Civic Center. That happens from 4 to 8 on Saturday. And then happening this Saturday at Historic Stonewall, part of the Sumner County Museum's efforts, is the Songs and Stories event at 6 p.m. There is a Red Cross blood drive happening in the Civic Center meeting room on the 19th from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. And then I would mention that we do have an industrial partner. The EDA is helping sponsor ribbon cutting for Mohawk Textiles. That's at 1381 Gateway Drive. Happens at 12:30, and that one will be on the 20th. And then I guess the National Softball Tournament, does it go from the 17th to the 24th, or is that two separate things? So it goes for a long time in the city of Gallatin. So well done to Gallatin Parks and Recreation to be able to accommodate that. We'll hope they have good weather. And I think that concludes Mayor's comments, and we'll move us now to the regular agenda. And the first item on this evening's agenda is Ordinance 02408-40. It's an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, rezoning 24.49 acres from the PGC Planned General Commercial District to the MRO Multiple Residential and Office District with an amended preliminary master development plan for the crossings at Hidden Creek Phases 1 and 2 on 5 parcels totaling 120.5 acres located north of Highway 386, east of Big Station Camp Boulevard, authoring the revision to be indicated on the official zoning atlas, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And to present this, I introduce our city planner, Mr. Brian Rose.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the crossings at Hidden Creek is a project that has already come through and gotten certain approvals for a portion of the project. They are essentially this yellow area. The currently approved area is that portion that's on this side of the creek. So this has all been approved and has subdivision for single-family homes and townhomes already slated to go there. The property is zoned MRO and PGC, which you'll see up here. The MRO portion is the red, the PGC is the pink. The request tonight is to rezone the portion in pink up here to a mix of MRO and PGC, similar to this, but slightly less wide of an area that would be for the PGC zone. Essentially, their request is to rezone 24.49 acres to MRO out of that acreage that is currently on the north side there. This will total for 228 single-family detached residential lots, 224 multifamily townhome units, 144 stacked flats, and 5 commercial lots on this entire parcel. So this particular request will add 36.45 acres to that development. That's the acreage of that northern parcel up here. It will rezone 24.49 of that 36 acres to the MRO zone, and then add, and I'll see if I can get this on another slide so you can see it better. The proposed layout would add 2 housing types, your single family, your townhomes that are on this, and your stacked flats that are on these portion here. Add 35 front-loaded townhomes, which is what I said, 106 alley-loaded townhomes, and 144 stacked flats. They will also be extending Jenkins Lane, which is here, down to connect back into Big Station Camp Road, and 3 more PGC zone commercial lots, which is these 3 on the edge of Big Station Camp. Phase 1 had 311 units comprising in here. The total after the addition of the other units would be 596 total units. Architectural elevations for the project. Let's see if I can get to that. For the single-family residential units, attached townhomes and stacked flats do not meet the 70% brick requirement. However, the Planning Commission did approve that, and that does match the other development that's already been approved as part of this development. The owner and applicant requests exception to reduce the yards as the minimum lot width and size for the lots. That exception was also requested and approved with Phase 1. The applicant does have a presentation that they would like to also make tonight, so I'd like to turn the time over to them.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Greg Gamble, and I'm with Gamble Design Collaborative, representing Delta Investment Partners, Randy Hoffman. And you're familiar with Randy with his development of McCain Station. I have a very, very quick presentation for you tonight. I'm going to skip past these two. We've already talked about the rezoning request. I want to bring you up to speed on some recent news regarding McCain Station. The hotel is under construction on this property right here. They're planning on opening prior to the holidays this year. Directly adjacent to that hotel site, we're planning to start the construction of a grocery store in 2025. There is a convenience store that will be located right here at the corner of Provine that will also start construction very soon. Just this last week, Randy Hoffman had the pre-con meeting for the installation of the traffic signal that's to be located right here at right here at Big Station Camp Boulevard and Provine. The purple line showing going across, this is the extension of Bison Trail as shown on the major thoroughfare plan. Those infrastructure plans are approved through the city of Gallatin, and they're being bid right now to start construction. That includes the Collector Road extension that goes down to Springdale Drive. So that also is about to start construction. Today, we submitted the construction documents for the phase 1 of the single-family homes, which are located right here in the crossings of Hidden Creek. And also a part of the major thoroughfare plan is Jenkins Lane, and that was touched on just a minute ago. Right now, Jenkins Lane is approved in the PUD to this point right here, which is the creek. So in our minds, it made sense to go ahead and develop a master plan showing the extension of Jenkins Lane all the way to Big Station Camp Boulevard, and that's why we're here tonight, to present to you the rest of the plan, talk to you about the rest of the design approach. Jenkins Lane is proposed in the major thoroughfare plan to continue on to the west. The general urban policy in Plan Gallatin has a specific note regarding the corridor of Big Station Camp Boulevard, and it says, this corridor should provide predominantly retail, restaurants, and other businesses along Big Station Camp Boulevard serving the surrounding residential subdivisions. R12 schools and Welsh College form the central attractor to this area. The corridor should be transitional from commercial along Big Station Camp Boulevard to various levels of residential behind the commercial developments. We believe that McCain Station, as well as the crossings of Hidden Creek, is absolutely consistent with that policy statement in Plan Gallatin. We believe that in our master plan development, consistent with the first phase of the crossings of Hidden Creek, that phase 2 provides interconnected local streets. It provides walkable streets to neighborhood commercial uses planned in the very near future as the homes develop and able to support those commercial uses. The plan does include buffers. There is a 35-foot buffer located along the north where this existing tree line would be preserved. There is a 30-foot buffer along the eastern property line where we have the potential for the new city park in the near future. We have 30-foot buffers that are also located between the residential and the neighborhood commercial properties. Alongside Revere at Hidden Creek, we have two 15-foot buffers, one on the east, on the northern boundary of that development. In phase 2 of the crossings at Hidden Creek, you will see the construction of the, I call it the Central Park. It's centrally located. It's a park that'll include a new swimming pool, clubhouse with fitness room, open lawn areas, fire pit, and parking for residents, for convenience. In the section that we're proposing tonight, we have the introduction of a muse. This is a linear park that serves as the front yard for the townhomes that are accessed off the alley from behind. So the garages will be accessed from the alley. The front doors actually open out onto open space, and this will be designed as a linear park with outdoor seating, garden areas, as well as a fire pit and a sheltered area just to the right at the end of this block. You'll see additional on-street parking is added around the townhome areas to provide sufficient parking for guests. There are two types of townhomes that are being proposed as a part of this plan. These are front access townhomes already approved as a part of the first phase of the crossings of Hidden Creek. We requested variances that are consistent with McCain Station for these townhomes. That includes the lot area, lot width, and the side yard setback. And again, those are setbacks and lot widths already consistent with McCain's Station. It's to draw a relationship to the existing neighborhood that Randy's currently developing. We also requested that 100% of the exterior materials would include brick, stone siding, as well as cementitious siding for the homes, and that variance, again, was granted at McCain Station and previously for the crossings at Hidden Creek. The alley-loaded townhomes have similar variance requests regarding the lot size, the lot width minimum, and the side yard setback, as well as the materials. And for the flats, we are introducing 6 buildings. These are 3 stories in height. Well, they'll have 24 homes per building. And we're requesting a variance in the front yard setback to 15 feet, again, consistent with the architectural standards that are approved at McCain Station. With that, finally, the neighborhood commercial. The intent here is to provide outparcels and lots where that's fitting for neighborhood commercial uses. We do anticipate restaurants, retail, and uses that are in compliance as stated in the general urban policy. I believe that we can provide that and be consistent with this policy. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
About the phasing on the connection to the park?
Sure. The plan for this road here, this infrastructure plan has been approved by the City of Gallatin, and it's out for bid right now. And we're anticipating it being under construction as soon as we get numbers back in the contractor approved. I would anticipate that road taking about 18 months, somewhere between 12 and 18 months to construct, start to finish.
So you listed brick, stone, siding, and a 4th type of siding that I didn't.
Cementitious siding. That would be consistent with what's approved currently at McCain Station.
I'm not familiar with that. Can you explain what the difference
Concrete
is?
lap board. It's lap board siding.
Okay.
Hardy board, some people call it.
So this might be a question for Brian, but then this variance, it's going to be more than, more than 25%, right, of siding, because you were asking for a variance of the 75% brick. Is that correct? So I'd just like to know just the reasoning of why that variance is being requested, beside it matching McCain, more like why that would bring benefit to the area.
Sure, it provides more architectural character and more diversity in the architectural styles that we can provide. A lot of southern styles and styles that we see traditionally in Middle Tennessee include that lap board, but in wood. Wood tends to degrade, as we know, over time. Traditionally, we would have used poplar, which is a wood that's readily available here in Middle Tennessee, but it's expensive to purchase. So when you start looking at woods that are available architecturally, you start looking at pine, and it's just better to use the concrete board. But what we're looking for is the character of that architecture that resonates here in Middle Tennessee, but still incorporating the brick and the stone as significant foundation pieces, as you'll see in our architecture. If you want me to flip to that, I certainly can.
Okay, well, and that might be something to discuss more later. I don't want to, there might be other questions, but that would be an interesting discussion because if Plan-A-Palooza, I remember the consultant talking about that variety, but I'll give more comment on that when it's appropriate.
I think the conversation happens a lot these days that our brick requirement does not necessarily create the most aesthetically pleasing development. And as we go through the update, I think that we will-
Right, yeah, I remember that, so it'd be
That
interesting
change.
to look at. So not this conversation doesn't happen at every presentation if styles have changed or opinions have changed, but
Exactly.
Just to clarify that word cementitious, cement is the root word there, and so it's a cementitious type of material. It's got its base in cement. So
That's very helpful.
that's
Thank you,
where
Brian.
that's where the hardy board type material is what it is, but it has the look of a wood siding, so it's cementitious in its nature of material, but in its look, it looks like a wood siding type of material.
Endures far better than either of the alternatives.
It lasts a lot longer.
Jamons?
Thank you, Mayor. An issue will come regularly and more is parking. So I think if I read well, you're going to have 29 extra parking space. I think that's what was given to us, and that is for 285 units. That seems a little low for me because I like the word stacked flat. I think that sounds fancy, but I suppose it's apartments. That's what you call stacked flats.
If you, flats are all living on one level. So you would have an apartment or a loft that would all be on one level, but these are not the same architectural buildings that you would find at Revere, Hidden Creek, for instance. If you want to pull the master plan back up, I can show you the difference. It's pretty clear on slide number 6. Okay, so if you're sitting close, you can see these buildings here. In Revere, this development has a total of 450 homes. These buildings are significantly longer than the small flats that we're talking about. These are much smaller buildings. They have smaller footprints. You have 8 homes per floor, and they actually have larger square footage than what you would find in an apartment. So this would be more in keeping with 2- and 3-bedroom home square footage. And the advantage here is that you can have a home that you don't have to worry about the maintenance of the exterior of the building, the roof. You don't have to worry about maintaining the grounds. So it is a different living experience than what we're seeing in the apartments. These would be a part of the association. They do have a surface parking lot behind them, but much more boutique in character than what you would find in an apartment complex.
Yeah, but I'm still with 29 extra space for 285 units. I don't think it's enough.
Okay.
If someone has a party or something, where are they going to park? That's a main concern we hear regularly now on subdivision, is that there's not enough parking space for people because the unit's getting smaller and smaller, so people use their garage as a storage unit. So that already kill a space, and that's my next comment has nothing to do with you really, but during public comment got mentioned, the lots getting smaller and smaller and exemption, and I've been seeing that for a while. It's not an exemption anymore, it's becoming the norm. 2,000 square foot lot instead of 6,000. And I know you said that what was approved at my Kent station, but that's what I mean. It's not an exemption. It's becoming the norm. Every development we see arriving asks for smaller lots, and they get it. So maybe we should change the word exemption and just give it, because for me, that doesn't meet, that doesn't mean the intent of the zoning code, I paraphrase, I don't have it exactly, but to say exemption are supposed to be given to make things better. And for me, reducing the lot from 6,000 to 2,000, that doesn't make things better. And another thing we talked, I think last week, but maybe I'm wrong, but are these units going to have to be sprinkled now because of the radius to 5 foot? I think it went to 5, from 5 to 6 to 5 to get sprinklers. I think that was, if I remember well, last week. But is that the case? Are you aware about that?
We'll have to meet the fire code requirements. Absolutely. With townhomes, it's preferred that a buyer buys that townhome fee simple, which means you own to the center of your wall, own the front yard, and own the backyard where you have the garage access from the alley. These could be sold in larger lot as condominium styles. It's just not preferred. It's preferred that they're sold as fee simple lots. Mortgages are simpler than having to condo every single townhome building on a larger lot. This is the type of home that we believe is very appropriate in this location, with direct pedestrian access out to neighborhood commercial in the very near future. The lot line and lot width that we're asking for, it just simply allows for a cleaner mortgage for the home buyer. It allows for that fee simple purchase, and that's how we would like to subdivide those townhomes. The flats would be more of a condo style. The parking, we not only meet the parking requirements that your ordinance calls out, but we exceed that with additional parking spaces. I'm not sure what or how many additional parking spaces beyond the code requirement that we would need to provide, but we believe that we are providing sufficient parking for guests and by exceeding the ordinance requirements. Did you want to add something?
I just was going to address the parking briefly. The number of townhomes is 78 units within that space, so with 29 additional. And I believe that was, the 29 was in regards to on-street parking in the form of parallel parking. Each of the units will also have parking within a driveway and garage. So that should be sufficient for what their needs are. The other question was with regards to the fire code and the sprinklers. Townhomes and attached stack flats or apartments will all have a requirement with the new code adoption to be fire sprinklered. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers the question.
My latest concern is, again, the open space. I think there is not enough there, even if you're building a park on the other side. You know, that's going to be hard for people to walk from one side just to go to the park. And this just center, it's going to be nice, but I don't think it's, I don't know, if I was living somewhere, I would like to have people coming in all day long in front of my door or on a fire pit in front. You know, that's my own stuff. I think there is not enough open space on that side.
Sure. In a muse, you would have the same distance from the front of the townhome to the sidewalk that you would have if you had a public street with cars driving in front of your townhome. So you still have the opportunity for that front porch, that private experience. You'll notice on this drawing, it may be a little bit hard to see, but there's a sidewalk that runs along the front of the townhomes all the way around this park. That sidewalk defines where the public realm is. It defines that public space, and it encompasses that public space. So all of the benches, the Frisbee, the football throw, all of that happens in that open space park in that Muse condition. But you're not compromising the loss of any of your private space that you would normally have if this were a public street.
And you have only one in the center, that's the only one you have, yeah? You have only one strip?
Yes, yeah, the linear park, that's right. It goes from start to finish, the full length of the block. Yeah, absolutely.
Forgive me for asking questions. I don't have the experience everyone else has here, but I think terminology is really important. So this may be for Brian more, but I did have I just want to make sure I understand this. The word flats was a new one for me. And the question was, what's the difference between flats and apartments? Because, you know, a lot of citizens are asking me about apartments and the amount coming in. What I think I heard, the difference was the flats are within the HOA and the apartments are not, because other things feel subjective as far as 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, what's an apartment. So just, I think knowing the difference will help us moving forward.
Yeah, I just looked at Randy nodding. Yes, the flats are a part of the HOA umbrella. That's right.
Are there more questions at this point, or is there a motion?
Motion to send it on.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilman Hayes to send forward to council.
I do have another question. Okay.
Second.
Second by Councilman Fennell. Now opening the floor for more questions and discussion. Councilman Ellison.
Just speaking to the street width, and I was just curious if if this is appropriate, Mayor, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, if the fire chief or public response has comments on how that might affect response
Their
time.
comments are within the plan, but I can't get to what the width is at that point. I will mention that I am excited to get a connection to that park. We have talked about it for a lot of years. Mr. Gamble, do you know the street width specific to, oh, you're going to get that. Thank you. Arterial. On the setbacks?
I'm going to flip back to the master plan for reference. This is probably best. Local street, so that would be any street that, public street like this one here that connects to, an off-site future connection. Local streets are also internal within the neighborhood here. That's a right-of-way that is 54 feet. It includes sidewalks on both sides, landscape strip, and two 20-foot drive aisles. The Jenkins Lane subcollector, which goes down here and connects out, that is a 54-foot right-of-way. Includes 2 travel lanes and 2 parking aisles on both sides. The Springdale Collector Road, which connects here, is a 64-foot right-of-way that's consistent with what's already constructed to the south. And then the Bison Trail Collector Street is a 76-foot right-of-way.
Say 76?
Yes.
76-foot right-of-way.
Other questions?
Yeah, well, I do know that there's a lot of experts in zoning, that know a lot about this. And so this is just me doing due diligence as I'm getting more accustomed. And so I just would welcome any comment from any other council members that would help give me some bearings moving forward, whether that's an acceptable width of streets or so, if anyone cared to share their opinion on
I
that.
don't know if Mr. Tuttle from engineering wants to
That would be
address
even
that,
better.
but I think
Yeah.
that they are very attuned to what they feel are smart widths. And, and we have, in seeing some of these higher density developments deliver, we are getting exposure to the challenges that accompany that, whether it be emergency traffic or conflicts between neighbors related to parking or just a lack of parking, so.
First, I would suggest that we sit down and look at this together. I think that would be the most helpful for you. But after that, all of their streets are going to meet the fire code requirements. And they do have a lot of on-street parking, which is going to be very helpful as well. So you got extra width that is there. But I think Mr. Gamble said 20-foot driving lanes, but right. So it's a little bit more narrow than that, but it's still for the most part the streets that they are proposing do have more width than what we would normally see, especially the Bison Trail extension. It's going to be a nice collector roadway. You've got which one is there? It is. So it's altogether 36 feet in width. So you've got 3 12-foot wide lanes, which is that's what you're going to find on an interstate, a 12-foot wide lane.
And Bison Trail wasn't as much as a concern, but thank you for
Some of the more the local streets, what they're showing is 26 foot in width, and that's not looking. That doesn't include any on-street parking for those. So you've got 13-foot wide lanes, so it's a little extra wide. So you probably are going to get some people that are going to find a parking spot there, which could potentially still leave 18 feet in width for fire engines or emergency personnel to try to get through, even if people are parked on the street. Lots of folks that are complaining that you heard from Lake Park out there off of Lock 4 Road. A street like that is like 18 to 20 feet in width, and people are parking on those streets and causing Aqua. Thank you. Yeah, it's a little bit further north than Lake Park. So Aqua Drive was a very common one that people were complaining about, people parking on a street like that where it's curbed with, like I said, 18 to 20 feet in width. So we're moving in the right direction with our requirements and what we're seeing built these days. So I think it's a good plan and good cross sections. And not only that, but the Bison Trail Collector Street does have bike lanes that are being added to it. So in addition to the 36 feet, you got 2 4-foot bike lanes on either side. Lots of wide sidewalks. The planting strips, the green or the grass strips in a lot of the cases are wider than what we typically see, which is 5 feet minimum. We have pushed for when they want to do street trees to try to make those grass strips wider, because if you got a 1 foot, 2 foot wide tree and you only got 5 foot to fit it in, then you end up with the trunk of that tree being just a foot or two off of the curb or a foot or two off of the sidewalk and causing problems for either being too close to the street or tearing up curb or sidewalk because of the roots. And so, again, I think they really, for the most part, are doing more than what's required, the minimums. So we don't always get that, so it's a good thing. Yep.
Any further questions from anyone? Mr. Javance?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everything you're doing, but like Councilman Allison was talking about Zoco, we got staff who say we need to try to do things differently, and it's still townhouses and apartments, even if we call them differently, and they're going to be small building, bigger footprint. But I think I'm still not sold on enough parking spots. I think that's going to be an issue, and it's still too compact. There is not enough open space, because I think the park is on the other side, so people are not going to go there. They're going to stay there. So I'm not sold on that.
Anyone else with any comments or questions? You ready to vote? All in favor of moving item 1, Ordinance 02408-40 on to council, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Passes 6-1. I'm going to ask a special ask of the council. I'm expected at Sumner Regional Medical Center here shortly. They are having a special naming ceremony at 7:30, and I told them that I would be in attendance. I have 2 items at the end of the agenda that have my name on them. I think they can be very quick. If we can go ahead and address those, then Councilman Hayes is going to lead the meeting in my absence, and I will get back here just as quickly as possible. The reason I want to go ahead and do those is in case you were to conclude before I was able to come back, because I do not know the length of their planned festivities.
No objections?
Thank you. No objections. Okay. So item number 14 is Resolution R2408-66. We did mention this to put on the, well, no, we didn't mention it. We intended to mention it last week, but we realized that we could make the deadline by putting the resolution authorizing the City of Gallatin to apply for a State of Tennessee Tourism Enhancement Grant on this week's work session, next week's agenda, because it is a resolution. And I think I shared, or I may not have, where I shared it, we're going to pursue putting up wayfinding signs with so many changes within our area, downtown, but then the opportunities that lie outside of downtown. We think that would really help improve experiences for the tourists to our area.
Motion sent to council.
Thank you. Councilman Jumance made a motion, second by Councilman Allison. Any questions, any discussion? He said that it's second too. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. It moves on to council. Item 15 is Resolution R2408-70, and I may ask for assistance from engineering on this, or you may be entirely comfortable with what I share with you this evening. But the parking lot that's right over there across from City Hall between the Methodist Church and the new station building, there are 3 different owners of that lot, including the city. The city currently has 34 spots on our property, and then the other property owners have 56 spots on their property. We have worked together to figure out a solution whereby we can, based on a pro rata share, collectively pay, basically the city would be paying a portion to the person that's coordinating it to pave the lot. Actually has a nice plan for added infrastructure, which is green space infrastructure, which I think will make the downtown look prettier. But by redesigning that parking lot, paving it all together, the way that we would benefit is we would go from 34 city spots to 43 spots, and the total number for all of the available spots in that parking lot across the street would be 56 spots. For the other, it would be a total of 80 spots. Sorry, my math isn't doing. So we would have 80 total spots. Wait, I feel like I've messed something up.
You said 56 spots, was that?
Existing 56, proposed 80.
Okay, so the existing combined, the city combined with the other spots is a total of 56. And the proposed would be the city with 43 and a total of 80. Sorry, y'all. I scribbled down notes based on what Nick relayed, and then I couldn't even interpret them. So, yeah.
So how much would we have to pay?
I don't think we know that amount yet, but I mean, we still got to pay, and it's a 10-year agreement, which is also out of the norm for this, for our processes. So what we are looking for, and we had the conversation with the exception of us signing the contract for that period of time, really it would fall within our public improvements within our existing budget. So,
So the other owners are just using this for parking only? I mean, we're not going into a contract with our neighbors that own it as far as renting the parking lot out or charging?
now we own our part, they own their part, but it is a better flowing parking lot that makes better spaces for all parties involved. That's the plan. Mr. Chavons?
Thank you, Mayor. I like the plan. I think it looks good on the paper, but the issue I have is to vote something without knowing how much that's going to cost us. So I would like to have an idea, at least a ballpark. And
They're getting estimates.
Yeah, they're going to be putting it out to bid.
And the second staff too, I was looking, it said that they would be responsible for the maintenance and they will
Thank you, I
charge
failed
us
to mention
back
that.
the maintenance. So I kind of on the fence on that because I think that's going to cost us more than if we have people who can do that.
I think you're not going to get the aesthetic or the maintenance for creating a, what's the word, a sense of place that we would have in that area by doing this coordinated effort. And we did talk about it, we've been talking about this a long time, and as we perused the idea, a lot of the conversation was what would it look like if the city did it, and they paid the pro rata share, but we felt like that this was forward, and so that's why we're where we are. Do you have any thoughts on what you want to add as far as what kind of expense we're looking at? I mean, we met,
What that is.
yeah, I don't mind asking the coordinator, if you will, to share his thoughts on that for next week, but.
That would be great.
But we're not, until we have an agreement and it's put out to bid, we're not going to know the final amount, so.
One of the property owners is, we did an in-house markup design. One of the property owners is the one that has taken that, hired out a civil engineer to actually put together a design to take to bid. So he has borne that expense to try to create a more fluid parking arrangement down there. If you're familiar with it, it's very jumbled and, yeah. So this is going to make it a ton better for just anybody in general that's looking to park there. I don't know if we would want to try to, which maybe it won't be as big of a deal now with court moving, but most of our issues with the parking lot that was the city's, it was just, court parking or Sumner County folks that are parking down there. So this may make it a little more accessible for the other businesses on the square and on Main Street to utilize and park, which is what I think our intention would be.
I think to some degree, my opinion is that we are paying really for an aesthetic and a plan as much as for the materials, the labor, and the maintenance. I mean, that as well, but.
When the parking lot was bought, probably, I don't know, 12-ish years ago, I'm guessing, the idea was that city employees would park down there and free up space in the city hall parking lot, and we did that for some time, and then things went on and people forgot that was the thing, and it really not a very utilized parking area now, and it could be much more for sure.
It'll be wonderful.
So I would entertain a motion.
Motion to move forward.
Council by Councilman Allison, second by Vice Mayor Love. Any further discussion? And I will try and get more information before next week's meeting. The coordinating property owner did volunteer to come this evening. I felt like I could do him justice, but I'm not sure I have, so I apologize for that. But we will move it forward to council with your vote. I would ask all in favor to please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Does move forward to council unanimously, which brings us now to item number 2. And Councilman Hayes is going to take over the meeting, and I will get back just as quickly as I possibly can. And I apologize for, here, I'll give you the paper version right here. How about that? And, but this is a big deal for the transition of our hospital, and I committed to being there. So thank you for your understanding and your patience, and I may see you back shortly. So thank you all. How do you get to the top? You get to the
There we go. Got it.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, this is item number 2. This is ordinance 0240-41, an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, rezoning 47.51 acres from the SP Specific Plan District to the MRO PUD Multi-Residential and Office Plan Unit Development District in the Greensboro Village PUD. and a preliminary master development plan PUD amendment for a multi-tenant retail development totaling 46.47 acres located east of Greenlee Boulevard and north of Nashville Pike. Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The property, as you had stated, is located, let me see if I can get to that next. Oh, I guess we're on the wrong presentation.
Fast forward.
Okay. All right, so again, property is located east of Greenlee Boulevard and north of Nashville Pike. Greenlee Boulevard is right here. Nashville Pike is right there. The actual property itself is 56.47 acres. However, about 9 acres of that is already zoned to the MRO district. If you look on the right over here, this orange portion is that portion that's already zoned MRO. The rest of it is the SP district and is proposed to be zoned MRO, just as that portion along Nashville Pike. The property is currently part of the Greensboro North Transit. It's a TRD, transit-ready development. That development proposes a mix of commercial, office, and higher density residential housing options. With the rezone to the MRO district, they will actually be relinquishing, I guess, their rights to quite a few residential dwelling units. So that was something that has already been previously approved for that property, but as they go forward and do a retail development on this property, they won't obviously develop any residential on that lot. And that was to the tune of 12 to 20 dwelling units per acre is what was approved. The development is split into 2 phases. Let's see if I can get to that portion. 3 lots and 3 out parcels. Lot 1, phase 1, includes the main anchor store and parking lot. So that's essentially here. Lot 2 includes the retail shops with parking and stormwater areas. So that's the remainder of it, and your stormwater, which would be along in that same area. And then phase 2 is reserved for your future commercial development, and that would be on your out parcels here. And I believe there's an out parcel in the corner over here. Engineering Division has recommended that additional access points be shown, and I'll get to that slide here, right here. So these green lines signify some additional access points as they move into phase 2 of the project. These are conceptual in nature right now, but essentially line up with where there are some streets across the way that would make it for better traffic control. A 10-foot wide greenway trail will also be extended along with this. See if I can back to the site plan. Generally, it will have to kind of start over in this corner and run up into the northern part up here where it will connect into some existing trail there. The anchor store includes a variety of materials, including brick, tilt-up panels, painted precast, an aluminum storefront curtain wall. The retail shopping center includes predominantly brick construction with some cementitious plank panels. The shopping center also includes parapet roofs of varying heights. The architectural elevations will not meet the 70% brick or stone requirement on each building facade. Planning Commission did vote to approve that amendment, that variance, and that was under resolution number 2024-095 and with 19 conditions. I believe the applicant is here as well and may want to say a few things.
Good evening. My name is Ken Knuckles. I'm with Development Management Group, representing Green and Little, who are the property owners, and CHM, who are the proposed developers, who are purchasing the property and developing the property. So as he just explained, we've got 56.5 acres. We're going to subdivide that into basically 3 lots and 3 out parcels. Lot 1 and Lot 2 are a part of the first phase of construction, which is what's reflected on the site plan we looked at. The out parcels are actually considered to be a part of phase 1 as well. So phase 2, which is future Lot 3, is the future development, which is going to be very similar kind of retail development to what we're proposing here. But it's pretty far out there, so there's a lot to work out on that part. The building on the shops in the junior anchor space, actually, of course, in this building, we've only got a front, and then the shops only have one side. So you got a front and a side and a back. But I've asked the architect to confirm this, but I'm pretty certain the amount of brick that we have on the shops and the junior anchor end down there is at least 70%. And what isn't brick is cementitious panels and similar materials like that. So we feel like we're pretty good on that end of it, but we are under the percentage requirement for Target. This is a new building for Target. This is a new prototype for them. So they had submitted a copy of whatever they were kind of wanting here with regard to the prototypical design. And we've worked with staff to kind of make modifications to this to better break up the vertical and horizontal lines and that kind of thing. So I think Planning Commission was in agreement that they thought that the alternate designs were suitable. And I think he had mentioned about cross-access and stuff through I'm not sure how to work this thing. So you can maybe go back to that overall site plan. There you go. So we are proposing, and as one of the conditions that was a part of the Planning Commission's recommendation, was to provide some additional driveways along Greenlee, which we will have. There you go. So there'll be one that aligns with, is it Miramil? Right there, is that the name of that street?
That's what you're lining up with now.
Okay, yeah, right now. Oh, right. But there'll be 2 others along that Greenlee frontage.
Little is the one that's on the north end.
Okay. But we are on our final master development plan, which we submitted today. We show how we propose to cross-connect everything from phase 1 to phase 2. Of course, the development will have some sort of a a reciprocal easement agreement or easements in whatever way we need to document that kind of reciprocity for access and utilities and stormwater between the 2 phases or between the lots. Planning Commission's recommendation came with 19 conditions. We didn't object to any of those, and most of those have been addressed as part of the final master plan that we submitted today. So we're excited about the project. Look forward to it. And if you guys have any questions.
Any questions?
Is Target
Hold on
definitely
a second.
coming? Definitely coming?
We got a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, I didn't hear that. I'll second it.
Who made it?
Got a motion, Fan, and second by Linda. Any questions?
Linda. Linda had a question.
Oh,
Well,
Linda.
he answered it.
He answered- Okay, all right.
No, you're next. Go ahead.
I want to make sure that the requirements, because say lot 3 phase 2, so if I understand well, lot 3 phase 2 is everything on the left side of the target.
Correct. Yeah, that's about 25 acres roughly to the left of what you're seeing.
And
next
it's
to the target.
is reserved for future commercial development, so I want to make sure that's going to be commercial and
Yes.
doesn't switch to residential. And there's something I find kind of funny, and again, it's stuff who passed before, it's nothing to do with you. It's in the general urban, yes, Brian, on the plan Gallatin, I think it's general urban. And if you go to general urban and you look at what less suitable, it's a large setback with surface lot discouraged. So that's how can we make it a lot more appealing? Because, you know, if we talk about Plan Gallatin all the time and we are where it says that should not be there. So that, I think that need to be a little more appealing.
Well, maybe you can weigh in on this a little bit, but I mean, just to give you a little context on how this layout became what it is, because there are a number of challenges on this property, despite the fact that it's rather large. But you've got Raskin Branch that runs along Greenlee, down on the Greenlee side, that crosses east or north-south, and then it goes back up, and there's Moore Creek, I guess it runs back behind the Target building, and there's flood zone. There are streams that we have to protect, that we have to work around. There are wetlands that we have to work around or resolve. And there's also a huge TVA easement that runs through that intersection right there, right through the corner of the property. So there are a lot of encumbrances on the property that we had to work around. You'd think with a property that big, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted to do, but it's a little more limited than that. So I think just hopefully that explains kind of where we ended up with the plan that we're presenting.
Anybody else?
I can at least speak to that a little bit as well. I think it's actually helping from what we previously had on this design for this property, especially with respect to, if you look there, the two out parcels that are there will hopefully be designed in such a manner that they can sort of block some of that visibility of that parking lot. And so, I mean, I think it's good that the parking is set back away from the road, and it's not the first thing you see. You know, and then of course, as he said, it did have to be cognizant of the fact that there are easements and drainage ways and things like that that are encumbering the site. I can show you, I believe we have it on here. Oops.
And landscape?
This was the old plan that was approved for this. If you look closely, you'll see the retail shops went all the way to the street and did not account for anything. And then the parking in front of it also went all the way to the street. So, I mean, that's a significant change that will hopefully help this to look a lot nicer.
You can go back to that overall plan again, if you would. So, you know, there's a little bit of landscaping there. So where these out parcels are, between the back of those out parcels and the parking lot at Target, that's where the creek and the stream and stuff are running through there. And there are protected buffers, which obviously we can't get in and mess with. And there's a lot of trees and vegetation stuff within that we really aren't going to be able to do anything to or with. So that's going to provide natural buffer as well between the out parcels and behind.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else?
Just one thing,
Okay.
please. Brian, because I went down in the zoning and I found the SP at the end of hiding somewhere. What the big change between the SP and the MRO? Why going to an MRO and don't stay on the SP? There is a main reason for that?
The SP district is largely for PUDs, and I think we're trying to get away from doing PUDs so much. And of course, that had to, it came in and had a full approval of what could or couldn't be done in that area. As they're looking to, from the residential portion of that, it seemed easiest and best to have them just do a PMDP, FMDP with the MRO district. That was the reasoning.
Okay. Nobody else? All right, ready for vote? All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right, moving on. Item 3 has been deferred. Item number 4, ordinance 0240844, an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, rezoning a .286 acre lot from the R10 medium density residential district to the R6 high density residential district located south of West Eastland Avenue and east of Pafford Place. Mr. Rose.
All right. See if I can get to that. So I'll try to be quick on this. It's a fairly simple request. The owner, Habitat for Humanity, is seeking approval for rezoning .286 plus or minus acre property from R10 medium density district to the R6 high density district. Oh, and I apologize, I'm not even on the right one yet. Oh, there we go. So the location of the lot is here. Eastland Street is there, West Eastland, and Pafford Place is here. The lot itself is this R10 zoned lot. Essentially, it's part of this subdivision that's along Pafford Place. Habitat for Humanity did the development of that particular lot, that particular subdivision. That one already had a single-family home on it, so they sort of did the back portion only. But they now are wanting to redevelop this and be able to develop 2 lots on that. Whether it's it could be 1 lot with 2 homes, but it's somehow going to be 2 homes on that. Whether they try to subdivide it or keep it the same lot and build a duplex on it.
Motion sent to council.
Have a motion, is there a second? Second. Any other discussion?
I think it makes sense. Everything is R6 around. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. All right, item number 5, ordinance number 0240845, an ordinance of the City of Gallatin, Tennessee, approving an amended preliminary master development plan for Gallatin Gap on 2 parcels totaling 35.01 acres located north of Nashville Pike and west of Harris Lane. Mr. Rose.
All right, so this is, again, a pretty simple request. I'm not going to go through the whole master plan development. What they initially had gotten approval for was this plan here, which shows a bunch of multifamily dwelling units that would support both the Gallatin Gap back here and, obviously the community college, which is to the west. They were required a couple of vehicular connections as part of their approval to Gap Boulevard, and those vehicular connections would take them into the secured area within the Gap property, and that the Gap opposed to that. They were opposed to that. They did not want to have any vehicular connection points to that area, so they've come in and just to request the removal of those conditions. that's essentially what we're before you tonight to ask for, is an amendment to the PMDP to remove the conditions that would require those vehicular connection points. And they did go before the Planning Commission. Planning Commission voted that it was a major amendment because it had to do with connectivity of, the circulation of the site. And so that's before you now to consider a major amendment to the PMDP for that purpose.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I was at the planning when that was discussed, and I agree that there should not be a connection to a secure private entity. I don't want that, but one of the major staff who came up for approval is that we had connection to avoid people to go on Nashville Park. And that was the main thing, and that would be approved to help the college, that will leave college people to go there without going to Nashville Park. So I still think we need a connection somewhere, and there need to be a way to do that, because that was one of the major staff who said we're going to provide, I almost say stack flat, apartments to the college people, and I still have an issue to go back to Harris Land, because I think Harris Land should not have a connection like that, because now if we remove the connection on the other side, that's where people are going to go. And with the traffic on Nashville Park, that's probably where they're going to go. They're not going to try to get on Nashville Park at that time. So we still need to find a way to get the connection somewhere. And I agree, we should not have a connection to a private, so I don't know what can be done there. That's
So
interesting.
the driveway here connects to Harris Lane, and Gap Boulevard is obviously parallel to that, right behind it. It's not that much of a difference for them to come out to Harris Lane, and if they need to get into Gap, then they come through the gated portion of it that allows them through there.
No, but that was not
I
just
do
a
agree
Gap.
on-
That was connection, that was Gap and the college. So,
Right. And I was just about to suggest, I don't know that there's a really good connection other than this one in order to get over to the college area. Obviously they've got the Ford dealership here in between. So I don't know that it necessarily will solve everything by doing something to the west to get to the college. It's a more difficult discussion for sure.
I know, that's where the problem is. Because I don't think the people working at the Gap's not going to be an issue, because we're talking, that was a minimal amount of subsidized apartment, so that's not going to be the issue, but so that's, I think we should maybe push it a little to try to find a solution, because we need a connection somewhere.
Got any ideas? Shoot them our way.
I'm trying to find.
And I'm not seeing, is there any walking paths, or is that part of the security? Because I hear the term walkability in all of our kind of hopeful plans.
There would still be a pedestrian connection available up to the north per the conditions, but the vehicular is being removed.
But that pedestrian connection, isn't it only going to be available to those few residents that are Gap employees and not the college community?
It would not be for the college. That's correct.
And that's something we talked about. It was connection for the college community as well.
Mr. Rose, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of that's privately owned property that's around it, correct? So there's not a way that we can force that unless
No, I
we do
know.
eminent domain. I mean, that's the only way.
I know, that's where,
That's not an option. And that's a taking. We're taking someone's property for forcing that connection.
I know, that's where the issue is that right now the connection we required go to their property behind security, so that's not good. So, I don't,
But I think what they're saying, and I think what I heard in Planning Commission when I was there, is that we have to connect, we have the 2 entrances that are required. Correct? I'm looking at Nick also. We have.
For emergency access?
Yes.
Yes. That's, you want more than 2 if you can have it from an access and connectivity standpoint.
The problem is the way this is built out, I don't see how we're going to force that.
There's no way to, really. So what's the will of the body?
We send it to council and study it some more.
make a motion to defer to the next work session.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to defer and second. Any discussion on that?
I think there's someone here to speak on behalf of, did you want to say
We've
something?
got a motion to defer, so.
Well, I know, but we
Yeah.
always give,
Okay.
we've always given.
I know, but they didn't come up. I didn't know. Sorry.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
John Richard Patterson, Kimley Horn, civil representative for the developer. I was just standing up in case you had any questions, but I mean, you're ultimately right. There's no possible way to get a connection through private property that someone else owns. Now, we are providing the PED connections to Gap Boulevard for access to the Gap campus. That will be gated for employees for security purposes, but then we are also building the sidewalk along our frontage, which will connect to Ford's sidewalk, which will eventually connect to Gap Road once those sidewalks are completed. The college campus.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion now?
We had a motion. We had a
Okay,
motion.
that's right. We got a motion to defer. All right. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
And what, the motion was to defer
The next
until?
work session.
Next work session.
Okay, thank you.
All right, ordinance number 6 is 02408-39, ordinance appropriating $30,000 from Project Woolhawk for Building Codes Department expenses. Mr. Stewart.
Doug Stewart, Building Official Law. We're requesting a $30,000 from the Woolhawk donation to replace a truck that we didn't expect to lose, that we didn't put anything in the budget to replace trucks with.
Motion sent to council.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 7, ordinance number 02408-38, ordinance amending Gallatin Municipal Code, Chapter 17, Article 4, Section 17256, rates.
Thank you, Councilman
Mr.
Hayes.
Kellogg.
Council, this is an ordinance to implement the recommendations of the natural gas rate study and cost of service study that was presented earlier this year. It's a 3-tier implementation for a natural gas meter charge. First year is $5 for a residential customer. Second year will be $10. Third year will be $15. Also includes a gas tap fee for new construction and just update some of the fees that are in the gas section.
If this does pass, will you make sure you put out some literature on this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'll include the literature on the water charge as well.
That'd be great. Any discussion?
We learned.
Any discussion?
Thank you for that. I don't know if I do that now or later, but last week I did bring the Westmoreland issue. So I apply because the mayor told me you were going to give staff, so I applied to that. And maybe that's going to work for Gallatin, but that's not going to work for the Westmoreland side. So we're still going to lose a lot of money from what you gave me, and even if I apply all these rates. So I don't know if you run the numbers.
I will forward to council. I updated the spreadsheet based on the current numbers. It's still cost of 5.9 million, revenues looking at 6.8. But I'll be happy to send that out. And I won't bring that back until we know exactly what the project's going to cost. We won't know that until it actually goes out to bid for construction.
Yeah, because even if I take what you gave on the number we had were 5.7 million. If I do a kind of, if I put everything built on day one, we're still short 1.5 million. And if I put a more normal approach where they're going to build by phase, we're short 2.5 or 2.6 million. So please send me your numbers.
Sure, and the numbers, like the number of units that we included, there are 1,200 platted units in that development. I didn't include 1,200 platted units. I just included a portion that we had commitments on. There are other developments that are in there, so I'm trying to be conservative with my numbers. I think it'll pay for itself.
I'm based on 750 per unit. That's what you gave me initially. So
correct.
If there is more unit, I will run numbers. But for what you gave me, the 750 per unit, including residential, commercial, and industrial, we're going to lose money. So I'm not really happy about that because I don't see why Gallatin residents would have to pay. And again, my simple question is that Westmoreland why don't they take a bond and pay for the line and connect to our line, and we sell them gas, and they have the burden of the line? Why? That's a simple question. Why don't they take the bond and follow your plans or whatever and put the installation on their burden? Why do we have to keep the burden of running, paying for the cost, paying for everything when they want the gas? We can survive pretty good with everything we're building without, their revenues, I figure. So that's another question. Why? Because if that doesn't go as planned, you say 1,200 lot, I see where the economy is going. Maybe that's going to crash next year. Hopefully not, but if that goes, we don't know what's going to happen on 20 years, but if that doesn't go as planned, we're going to lose money. Why? So why don't they?
And it could go either way. It could crash, as you say, or it could boom, and we bring in one industrial customer that takes off everything. So it's based off of factors that we don't know yet. Just like the construction cost, they could come in less than what we've estimated. They come in more.
But again, it's a simple question. Why don't they take the bond, install the line, and we still sell them gas, so we don't take the risk? If they really want the gas, why don't they build the line?
And that would be a question for the officials from the town of Westmoreland. We've been approached, and we did what we thought was a viable cost estimate based on construction. The line was run from Airport Road to 231 in 2020 with the intent to run gas to Westmoreland. So we put in miles of pipe that we have limited revenue that's been generated off of it because there's just not that demand in that area. This will actually put that line into better use for its originally intended purpose.
But is that worth a $5.7 million risk?
I think long term it is is a good opportunity for our ratepayers, yes.
Any other questions or anything?
I'd just like to say, I know, David, that I've heard lots of people talk about your expertise, and I really appreciate what you do. In light of what we saw last week, I guess I have hesitation because I did see the numbers. And I mean, I'd like to know maybe from Susan, like, and maybe help know exactly what we're voting on here because, and of course, I know this isn't a vote, this is just moving it to next week or whatever the case is. But, you know, in these, I think these estimates are important, and I just didn't know the consequences of what this will be. If you can help give me some clarification.
I am not the finance director. I don't know if the finance director or
David
if
probably can.
Mr. Kellogg
I did. I mean, I
assist you
did.
with that.
Really, it's two separate issues.
Yeah, it's
What
two
is
separate
for the
issues.
board tonight is
That's what I need help with.
rate study.
Okay.
We had a consultant do a rate study. The rate study recommended implementing a meter charge in lieu of raising the margin of our rates. A 3-tier rate study, $5 the first year for a residential customer, $10 year 2, $15 year 3 per month.
I remember that clearly, yeah. It's just we got that. Just go ahead.
And that's what you're voting on tonight is just the recommendations from the rate study. What was mentioned last week is a meter charge for Westmoreland. It would help recoup expenses that were spent to extend gas service into the town of Westmoreland.
So there are two different issues, and you're.
But I'll bring, once we have construction plans and at a firm cost, we can determine what that meter charge for them needs to be, and I will bring that back along with the construction plans and the bids for that project.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a motion? We have a motion.
Motion to move forward.
Okay, we got a motion. Is there a second? Second? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right. Item number 8, ordinance number 02408-43, ordinance appropriating $20,000 from revenue received from the, what is that? LEDA. Cost sharing grant for vehicle replacement.
Yes, this is
Mr. Mann.
$20,000 to go to our vehicle line item replacement. This is part of a grant that we applied for a while back. It's Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, and a lot of agencies within our state have applied for it and received funds.
Motion to send to council?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All
You
those in
answered my
favor?
question. I was toned what the TA was, but you just said it. Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, Resolution R2408-64, resolution authorizing the City of Gallatin to apply for a Blue Cross Healthy Places grant.
We're requesting permission to apply for a Blue Cross Healthy Places grant. The grant would be 100% funded by Blue Cross, and if we're awarded this grant, we are going to use it to put in park structures, picnic shelter, and walking area in the property that we purchased a couple of years ago on East Main Street that's in behind Stomping Ground and Bank of Tennessee. That's the road that goes up towards the football field at the high school. We met with the Historic Commission last week. They were in favor of it and support it. We've received letters of support from the school board and from the hospital for this.
Motion to send it on to council.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Thank
Motion
you.
carries. Item number 10, resolution awarding life, AD&D, short-term disability and long-term disability benefits contract for the City of Gallatin.
Courtney Kanjemi, HR Director. Good evening, Council. So this resolution would permit the mayor to sign a 2-year renewal contract with Symetra for life, AD&D, short and long-term disability, as well as our EAP coverages beginning January 1st, 2025, ending December 31st, 2026. Our insured agents were able to secure January 1 renewal rates earlier than anticipated. Rates initially quoted at a 20% increase for basic employee life coverage and a 25% increase for short-term disability coverage, or 8% overall. Kelly and Michael were able to negotiate the rate increase for both basic employee life and short-term disability down to 15%. While that 15% sounds like a large increase, since it's only 2 out of the 12 coverages affected, that results in an overall annual rate increase of 6% and approximately $17,000 per year. It translates to a fiscal year impact of $8,510.69 for the 2025 budget year, and a savings of $7,511 from the initial quote. An additional point to note is that this is the first increase Symetra has requested in over 7 years for the short-term disability, and reflects only a 2-cent rate increase for basic employee life.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion on this?
Good job, thank you.
Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 11, resolution number R2408-67, resolution to reclassify positions and add additional headcount within the Codes Department.
Again, Courtney Kanjemi, HR. Between the budget planning process and now, the Codes Department has seen some significant staff changes. It requires a reclass of some of their positions. First, the department administrator was budgeted at an admin 5, but current staffing calls to reclass the position to an admin 2. Second, the data administrator has taken on additional responsibilities consistent with reclassifying the position to data quality engineer / training administrator / systems administrator. So Nathan has taken on a whole lot more with IT and things that get done in our Tyler system. The job descriptions were submitted for each of those requested changes. Additionally, Codes is requesting an additional permit associate 1 based on current community need and the way that their staffing is at the moment. And based on staff retirement and other changes within the department, the Codes budget should be able to absorb any of those salary adjustments.
Motion to send on.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, resolution number R2408-68, resolution to reclassify positions within the Public Works Department.
So during the budget planning process, a reclassification request was sought and approved for the Public Works Department, reclassifying 2 equipment operator 2 positions to equipment operator 2 crew leaders. These 2 were positions that were filled at the time. Due to a communication error, the 4 remaining vacant EO2s were not reclassified in the budget. There were 3 in streets, 1 in stormwater maintenance. Reclassifying the 4 positions would have a total budget year impact of less than $25,000 if all 4 positions had been filled as of July 1st. With positions being filled for less than the entire budget year, the effect is anticipated to be much less and can be absorbed in the departmental budget.
Motion sent to council.
Have a motion? Second. And a second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir. That is great, but I think we need to find a way to pay the employees of the department more than what we're doing, okay? And we need to find somewhere money to do that because these guys work hard. And if I look at what we had in the past, we had the same issue with the PD.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's the next one.
we voted a raise for the PD. And if I look at the number, a year ago, the PD had 16 openings. Today they have 6. Public Works a year ago had 9, and today they have 9. So
the hope is with that change, this would actually potentially fill, and realistically, we're thinking probably 2 of those 4 positions.
Yeah,
It
but
brings it a little
not
closer
just-
to market rate.
not just for these people. We need everybody in that department to get
Agreed. That's the next one.
fun money.
That's the next one. So,
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Number 13, resolution number R2408-69, resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with salary.com.
So this, as part of the job study, which is upcoming for the next budget year, so it really speaks to what we were just talking about, and future job valuation efforts, HR would like to subscribe to Salary.com's Comp Analyst platform. It would allow us to compare jobs, both private sector and public sector, in the areas, and allow us to hybrid some of the positions. So like our utilities, which are hybrids of different positions, we can't really find an exact oranges to oranges comparison in the market at the moment. It would allow us to hybrid those positions together and evaluate the positions based on a huge amount of market data. We were able to negotiate a 42% price reduction, and the total cost is $5,000 per year for a 3-year contract. And Salary.com did agree to most of our contract changes required by the city's contract administration policy. There was one exception. Section 12-2, total limit on liability of the data subscription agreement, is in opposition to Section 1.7, impermissible contract provisions, Section C, limiting third-party liability of the city's contract policy. While we don't foresee it being an issue, since it pertains to data misappropriation and us using the data incorrectly, it requires a policy exception and therefore approval of this body before the agreement could be entered into.
Susan, please, can you expand on that? Because I read it and I have no idea.
So typically, we do not allow in our contracts, when we are contracting with any vendor, for them to limit their liability, to come and say, regardless of what happens, if whatever happens, we're only going to pay X amount of dollars, because that's really an appropriation of money without council approval. And so what Courtney is asking is for you to approve that tonight. And what is the section? What is it limiting it to?
It is limiting, it's actually limiting both parties' liability. So it limits our liability to whatever we've paid within the 12-month period prior, and it limits Salary.com's as long as Salary.com's total liability arising from the indemnification would not exceed $100,000.
We don't indemnify. That has to come out.
So, and they did agree to take the indemnification portion out of that. But it would limit their liability to $100,000. But again, our contract is $5,000 a year.
You have an issue with that?
As long as this body approves it, I'm not going to sign off on it because I'm not a policymaker, and that's against our policy. But based on the type of contract this is, I don't have a major issue with it because it's our data, it's what we're going to be using, but it does require council approval.
To come back to what I was saying before, yeah, that's great, but what we need is now. It's not in a year or 2 years or 3 years, because if we want to keep our people, we need to keep them happy, and if we want to bring more people, we need, because we're growing, so we need public works. So, but that's good. If you're happy with it, I'm happy with it.
Is that a motion?
Motion sent to council.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That concludes the agenda. Now we are on other business. Does anybody have anything up here?
I've got something. Councilman Hayes.
Okay, go ahead.
Apparently, Councilman Javance gave a present to County Commissioner Mark Harris, a troll doll, so he has returned the favor, gave it to me in the parking lot since I was the last one to come in the door, but you got yourself a Pinocchio.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So that is it.
Can I take a picture with it?
It's yours.
Oh, it's mine. Cool.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
You have something?
Yeah. I'm still stuck on the I'm going to ask that question until I get an answer on the land for the soccer field, because every time I ask the question, say it's in the end of the call. So why don't we have an answer from the call? Because, you know, at one point we need the plan, the park and rec study. We got that, and now it's we need an answer from the Corps, and if the Corps say no, where are we going? So do we have a plan B for that? Because I hear Park
Can
and
answer
Rec,
that part.
we
I
get,
can tell you about what we're doing with the Corps.
yeah, we get a lot of money, you know, softball tournament, how much money we leave on the table because we don't have soccer tournament? Because what I hear, they bring a lot of money too. So, yeah, I would like a read update.
What I can tell you is that, I think it was last week, the Corps of Engineers responded to the draft appraisal report that was created by our appraiser with a couple of comments. They had a request, and turned that back over to our appraiser, and I'm waiting for them to update that so that we can then resubmit to the Corps to get their approval. So once we have that appraisal approved, we can move forward with beginning negotiation. This is a different process than what we're used to because we haven't developed a project with the Corps before, but they do allow us staff representatives to make the approach and begin the negotiation, whereas normally we do not have that kind of interaction. It's not allowed through state processes. So they're going to have to educate us just a little bit on that, but I don't expect that to take long for us to get with them. So hopefully within a month, we could be approaching the property owner with this approved appraisal report and discussing what an offer could be.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Anything else? Anybody? All right, department heads. Any department head? Rosemary?
Well, I'll start over here since this was your issue. So last week, I believe, as I recall, Councilman Jouvence asked Susan and maybe the mayor to report on the action of the Industrial Development Board related to the distribution of the Meta pilot funds. And then after discussing it, we decided that I should at least bring this information to you. Alan Ramsey, who is the chair of the Industrial Development Board, is here. And just need to remind you that the Industrial Development Board is its own separate corporation. It is chartered, it has its own EIN, and by statute, there are lots of rules and regulations that go with it. So Alan can explain to you, if you need further explanation, what their motion was about distribution of the Meta pilot funds.
Anybody have any questions for Alan or Rosemary?
68 plus 27, that's 95%.
Correct.
So where are the other 5%? Go ahead.
No, it's y'all's motion, but the other 5% is to fund the operations of the board because they have to manage the pilots, pay the attorneys, et cetera.
As you will recall, I do not represent the IDB.
I know.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I just do want to add one thing, that the overall percentages are 95, but the school system is getting 100% of what it would have gotten if these were actual taxes, which they are not.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Stewart?
Mr. Howell, who did the presentation last week for you on the code adoption, left you a paper for everyone to take a look at. we'd like for you to take a look at it. If you have any questions next week, we'd be glad to address them. One thing I do want to say tonight is that keep in mind that these building codes are written to a bare minimum. We cannot go less than the building code, but we can make them more stringent. And if you look at the cities around us and you look at the work he pulled together to get some estimates in there, we do not, when we start code adoption, we do not look at developers and contractors. We look at citizens. We look at firefighters and emergency personnel to make adjustments to the code. Gallatin Code Department has led the state in most all the categories out there. We answer questions from code departments all over the state continually. What we've asked for, we don't think is out of reason. We think that the contractors that we have dealt with, and 700 of them went through our briefings and classes on the code and what we're asking for to make it a safer community. So please put some time consideration into this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. The Tennessee Department of Transportation did bid out and award the Nashville Pike repaving project, the Highway 31E from Greensboro Drive down to Joanne Street, which is close to Vic Jenkins. Rogers Group is currently planning to start on that, not this coming Monday, but next Monday, August the 29th. They're planning to do the milling and paving overnight, which may take them several nights. That plan may change, but if you start to see that things are happening on 31E in the next week and a half, then that's what's going on. Tennessee Department of Transportation is responsible for it. So if you have questions, you could try to call us. We should know what's going on, but they are responsible. I do expect there to be some minor issues with our signalization because, of course, we still use a lot of loop detection that would be in 31E, and so there's going to be some challenges of us getting subcontractors and all back in behind them when they are able to do the paving. So hopefully it doesn't mess up our timing plans and coordination too much, but if you hear complaints about that following the paving, then that's what's going on, and we're working very quickly and as diligently as we can to try to get those things back repaired as they should be.
Thank you. Any of those department heads? If not, that concludes the meeting. Is there another motion?
Motion adjourned.
Motion and a second. We're adjourned.